So many don't actually know this, but Blizzard has officially confirmed that Sargeras and Illidan are going to return in 13.0, which is going to be the last Titan. This makes complete sense as the start of the saga is focusing on the sword, yet nothing is happening with the sword right now. Recent hints showed us that Sargeras isn't really all that different from the Titans. It's unlikely he really went crazy, but what is his return going to look like? Is he going to come back for the sword as an independent entity, and could he be our only way to actually defeat the Warlords? Or are the Titans going to finally realize that he was right all along? There is no other way to fight the Void with anything else other than extremes, and now they might accept him back as he becomes the last Titan. While we're talking about Sargeras, I decided to ask him a few questions myself. What is going on with him? If he could give us his own first-hand perspective on the entire Titan ordeal. Now, the coolest thing with Polyboss here is that I just created Sargeras, typed in the entire lore of his character with his image, tweaked a few settings, and you got your own personal Sargeras to talk with voice and everything. There are already a bunch of characters, but you can even create your own WoW character, type in the lore, and talk with your own character as well. All you gotta do is use my code DORON, check at Polyboss, and unlock some really amazing features. One of the interesting things to consider is, despite the fact that Xal'atath is really the harbinger of this World Soul saga, the one that is opening the entire thing and is the leading figure by all accounts, Sargeras is actually the main guy of this entire storyline. I've said this a few times in the past, but based on a recent interview we learned that Chris Metzen, that created the Sword of Sargeras in the first place and that Legion ending, he didn't like where WoW was going next, which was the true reason why he left, and the reason was he didn't like the way WoW was going in BFA and Shadowlands. It's almost certain that he had at least a portion of the World Soul saga planned out even 10 years ago back in Legion, and now they're building on top of that plan. We know Blizzard started working on the saga a few years before Chris returned, so that explains why things are a bit disjointed, because Khazad-dûr very likely wasn't in Chris Metzen's vision. We know they tested underground stuff with Zeralek Caverns back in Dragonfight, so that is why the saga starts with the Sword of Sargeras in Silithus with that opening cinematic, and that is the focal point, but now we're in a completely different zone. However, it actually isn't that disjointed if you pay attention to the little details. So this is chapter 1 of the saga, and the finale is going to be about the grand conspiracy, the Light versus Void battle, and really the last Titan, where a big thing is happening, and that is the return of Illidan and Sargeras. If you haven't been following the news, this has actually legit been confirmed. There is a whole video on the official WoW channel where Chris Metzen talks about the saga, their thought process, and he hints that Illidan is returning, but that is going to be a 13th thing, which means it is going to be Last Titan content. Following this logic, as Illidan is the jailer of Sargeras obviously, this subsequently confirms that Sargeras is going to come back. Actual return of the Titans has been confirmed as well, even back in Dragonfight with Iridikron, which is really the entire premise of the expansion. So think about it, there is no way the entire Titan Pantheon is going to come to Northrend in person, and there is no way Illidan, the jailer of Sargeras, is going to return to Azeroth, but Sargeras is just going to sit this one out in some cosmological prison all alone and unattended. Now, Sargeras is coming back, but the real question is in what way, what is he doing now, and how is this going to work out? So when you think about it, this actually makes complete sense. It's pretty evident that Sargeras had some sort of a plan at the end of Legion when he stabbed Azeroth. We know this because we learned that the Beldar Crystal started turning into the Void, which is the cause of all the recent events, and we also learned that the old god blood deposits in the crust of Azeroth shifted as well, infecting many areas that we knew nothing about. The Void Hermit, the Twilight Hermit guy in Silithus, also vaguely hinted at this, that Sargeras didn't just randomly decide, let's stab Silithus. At the time, we all thought this was really his last resort. While he was being imprisoned, he just randomly lashed out. But think about it, if his goal was really to destroy Azeroth with a single swing of the sword, he almost certainly would have slashed it instead of stabbing. We know at least one planet that Sargeras slashed and completely destroyed with one single swing, and this was back while he was still a Titan, so he was much weaker than he was at the end of Legion. vision. So certainly Sargeras' goal wasn't to destroy the planet, because he almost certainly knew how potent our planet was and how crucial it is for something we don't know yet, and that something big is going to go down in a few years, essentially ensuring his escape. I've got two scenarios right now that seem very likely based on all the recent evidence we got, and I'll lay it out what we know and then you can kind of think for yourself. The first idea is based on the Hermit from Silithus that got new dialogue options in Dragonflight, and that is that Sargeras never really betrayed the Titans, they just had a disagreement in strategy. Let's just look at the actual quotes that he says so that I'm not making this up. Why did he strike this place? He was far too masterful a tactician to choose this target by chance. This is what I just previously said. Almost certainly Sargeras didn't randomly lash out, he picked Silithus out of all the zones, very likely because either the Titan prison mechanism here or because Khatun was there, and this is what pushed the Old God blood, which wreaked havoc all over Azeroth a few years later. The second quote is even more interesting, and it is in regards to the Titans themselves. The Titans care only about their precious order. They would sacrifice anything to achieve it, including their own followers. Even the Dark Titan had a pattern to his actions, a cold logic intended to impose his perfect vision, and the willingness to eradicate existence if he could not achieve his ends. Do you think the rest of his kind are any different? Only in method, not in goal. Guys, keep in mind, all of this is actually brand new dialogue from 2023 in Silithus, so it was all added when they were already working on The Last Titan. It is obviously foreshadowing for the World Soul Saga. I just want to say that this quote strongly hints that the Dark Titan Sargeras isn't really so different. The entire Titan narrative that we have learned from the Chronicle is that this guy had gone crazy, he lost his mind and just started destroying everything in sight, while the Titans were obviously, peace-loving, amazing people, building civilizations and creating everything. It's obviously BS. It's been pretty obvious that the Titans are enslaving planets, forcing people to do their bidding and brainwashing them to believe that they are the good guys. You can see that all over the place with the Earthen. Sargeras isn't really any different, but the real disagreement came in when they realized that the Void is a big problem. Sargeras faced them head on. Unlike the rest of the Titans, he fought the Void, he was nearly driven crazy by it, and he personally destroyed an old god-infested planet, so he had hands-on experience on what it would mean when the Void takes over a planet. I think he came to the realization that the Void is so insidious that they have to be eradicated and they got to start everything from scratch. Titans didn't believe this, they thought their prisons and brainwashing will work. Now, look at the known lore. It did actually work until it stopped working. I mean, objectively, look at all the facts. Titans took serious control over Azeroth and Iron Grip. They installed all these machines, facilities, mechanisms, failsafes. This all worked great for thousands of years until it just started breaking and breaking. The Void started to slowly leak, attack from this, that angle, and what we're witnessing right now is the final destruction of this fragile mechanism. Sargeras almost certainly knew it would end this way, so he pushed the sword to finish the job, so now the Titans will realize he was right all along. So the theory is that Sargeras is going to be redeemed, but not for us, but for the Titans. They might realize that his way is now the way to go, and he might be the last Titan. Obviously what they were doing no longer works, they are super desperate, seeing that they're going to come to Northrend in person, so why not pick the ultimate weapon they have in store, their own champion Sargeras. If this is the case, I think Sargeras is going to be cleansed of the Fel, he may return close to his original form, and when the Titans come marching in with Sargeras, that will be the final confirmation that, yeah, these guys are definitely not the good guys. However, I have previously covered this theory. There is another one that is a little bit different from this one, but it is nonetheless as plausible. It seems very likely that we are going to lose in Midnight, that this would be the first expansion where we lose or something really bad happens. Keep in mind, the way the World Soul Saga is created is that it is really one giant mega expansion, and these expansions are the chapters. There is a reason the Titans will have to come in person. Keep in mind, this is as big of an event as when they first conquered Azeroth, and we are going to witness it this time. For them to come themselves, it means something really bad is going on. It seems likely that the Void conversion of Azeroth would start at the end of the War Within, and it would really start ramping up in Midnight, where Azeroth may actually be done for. Because of that, the Titans would lose their project that hold over the World Soul Prison, which is almost certainly mainly under Northrend, and they got this break glass in the case of emergency guy. Remember, Sargeras battled Old Gods the Void back when he was a Titan, then he created the Burning Legion. He literally had a giant demonic army that was battling the Void non-stop. I know we faced off these guys all the time, but the primary goal of the Burning Legion was to fight the Void. In fact, this is one of the main reasons why we never really encountered the Void in that big of a number so far, because they were constantly fighting either the Burning Legion or the Light. I don't think the Titans are powerful enough to stop them, and here Sargeras steps in. It is almost the same as the first scenario, but maybe they don't forgive him and say he's right. He may break free because the Titans are leaving the prison unattended. Sargeras may actually be the one that is going to have to fight the empowered Azeroth or the Void Lords, which might actually be the finale of the saga. Think about it. We defeat the Titans, Sargeras defeats the Void, and there is a potential scenario where after that he escapes, and now we got a future Sargeras to deal with again. This would give a lot of room for Blizzard to have new stories following the World Soul Saga, because they did say they plan to continue on WoW for a really long time. The World Soul Saga is not the ending. So, just how the saga started with the sword, Sargeras knew what he was doing. This was his long-term plan to break free, either to literally break free as an independent entity, or to convince the Titans to free him so that he can return back to the Pantheon. Whether he's actually going to be fell being following his years of imprisonment, it is really hard to tell. He may not be reforming the Legion, but if he does end up escaping, remember that this is literally a being, the power of a god, with hundreds or thousands of years of experience, a being that destroyed planets, and he may just learn from his mistakes on what to do next. Thanks for watching. Check out what will happen with the Light Emperor by clicking on the screen, and also subscribe to my new raid channel by clicking on the screen as well. See you next time!